All right, you are now tuned into the Rotated Views podcast. I am your host, Jimmylee Velez. I'm here with Gabe and Goose, the challenge, part 5. In this episode series, the crew is taking on a challenge of their own and sharing the journey. We cover topics that range from final adjustments, recommendations, overall results, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Paulo Coelho and Wayne Dyer. Guys, if you're new, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to download and subscribe. We drop a new episode every Tuesday morning for your listening pleasure. Kicking things off, gentlemen, the final episode of the challenge. Here we are, part 5. We thought it was initially going to be a 4-part series, then realized we recorded an episode prior to starting the actual challenge to kind of introduce it. So here we are, part 5, the final installment of the challenge, in which kind of go through our overall results. And as you guys been paying attention and joining us on this journey for the previous 4 episodes, these episodes are, relatively brief, but I think it's still packed with a lot of information that is useful to our listeners, and possibly inspiring and motivating for you all to start your very own challenge, or maybe join us in a challenge in the future. With that being said, if you're new and you're joining us for the first time, this is the challenge part 5, meaning there's 4 other parts prior to this episode. So you feel free to stay with us here, but if you want to get the full effect, I suggest you start from episode, I guess it's 313, 314. Yeah. So the challenge part 1 all the way through part 5. With that being said, the crew decided to take on a challenge of our very own. It's a 7-step process, and along the way, we're kind of, recording our progress, giving feedback, maybe suggestions for future challenges and where we can improve and make this particular one better. But the point is that this is like a very beginner style challenge. It's nothing, over the top. Ironically, there's still stuff that, I still messed up on this past week, the past holiday week. But we'll get into that. So I'm going to go over the 7 items, just in case you have not yet heard any of the previous 4 episodes. So number 1, chug at least 1 bottle of water upon waking up. Number 2, stretch/workout for 20 minutes, ideally cardio. 3, pray/meditate for 10 minutes. 4, study/read for 10 minutes. 5, review/recite affirmations for 3 minutes. 6, write one thing you're grateful for. And 7, intermittent fast for 1 meal, ideally breakfast. So it's been 28 days. We completed all 28 days. My sheet, which I thought you're going to be able to see, is completely filled out. It's a little beat up because I would take it places with me wherever I was going. Again, a lot of it was for reminder items. And so, but if you can look at this very closely, I still have gaps. Once again, affirmations, and then intermittent fasting is what I messed up on this week. I'm not blaming the holiday, but I'm blaming the holiday and blaming myself. The holiday definitely didn't help. It was quite the challenge. And so, plus having like 4 or 5 days off back to back. It just threw me so off my routine that this is kind of why we're doing this, because actually the goal is for us to develop a more succinct challenge. And so we're kind of giving each other feedback so that we can prep, so that when we do it as a larger group, we're trying to come up with like an improved version of what we're doing here, so that the results are much more effective, and the challenge is much more effective than what we just, I guess, performed here. But yeah, so my overall thoughts with the whole thing, I think that it's very doable. I think we successfully went through the 28 days. Previous feedback that I still believe needs to be implemented is possibly a check-in, like a midweek, intro week check-in. That's to be determined exactly what day it is, just for a little bit more accountability, or just to kind of stay on the ball a little bit. Again, this is a beginner challenge, so hopefully moving forward, you can hold yourself accountable, or maybe just one other person. The other thing was possibly a quote or two, some additional motivational material along the way. I think that's why a lot of these challenges have Facebook groups, because when you're in a Facebook group, you're communicating with other people who are going through the exact same challenge you are, and you all can relate to each other. You all can share ideas, motivate each other, and share some, overcoming stories. And that's just, honestly, it's inspiring, and it pushes you to be better and become, a better version of yourself through these challenges. There were some other things that we said we wanted to add, like throwing in a multivitamin or a supplement of some sort, to introduce healthier eating, or healthier intake habits, I should say. And then again, this is extremely beginner, so there's a bunch of stuff we can build on, but we wanted to make it so that it wasn't, intimidating for anyone reviewing it and saying, "Oh, I can't do that." Sort of removed all the challenges and excuses. However, we're always open for additional input or suggestions. So if you have any, please reach out to us directly. We'll be happy to take them into consideration and see if it's applicable to what we're doing here. So for me, the last week was, it's pretty much where I messed up was the intermittent fasting. But like I said, I'm very proud that we went through this entire thing. And the funny part is, man, like upon waking up, I'm like searching for a bottle of water.
Yeah.
It's still become an actual, like before I know I did it, or maybe I'll forget one day here and there. Now it's just like, I need to drink water, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I do. And same thing with like listening to something or reading something. That's just a habit of mine. But I was very intentional with it when challenges. And so I was intentional into what I was intaking. And I was doing way more than 10 minutes, but that's my piece of cake, right? Where my struggle was the intermittent fasting, and actually working out wasn't, believe it or not. It was the intermittent fasting was the hardest part, I think, for me. Initially, as you guys were all laughing before, was the affirmation, which is kind of wild. But I did mention I have reconstructed that list several times throughout the challenge, and I think we have it down to a very solid list. And there's some repetitive options in there, purposely and strategically placed. Because as we mentioned before, sometimes you're reading through affirmations and you're not really intaking it or believing it. You're just reading it off.
Trying to get through it.
Yeah. And so I think this was a success. I think I can build off this. I'm very happy with what we did. I'm actually very proud of us with the whole team here that we stuck to. This is the first time we ever did anything like this, that we stuck to it together, did it together, shared the results, manned up where you need to man up. I just think overall it was an absolute success. And there's a bunch of stuff and feedback that we have here that we can add to it. I think the other thing too was the book, like adding up, like whatever the material is, it's the same material all together. We're talking about those one pagers or whatever it was, just to, again, remove the excuses. And then talk about, and maybe like link the 7 stories together so that they're kind of cohesive in the message, and then talk about it. I think the debriefing is something that is not in here, but is I think is as effective as, I think that this is just as helpful than the 7 steps. Is the debriefing part, is us talking about it, and sharing our experience and struggles.
Well, because we had that already planned into there as being like our like weekly debriefing, I guess you could say, or like weekly like check-ins for it. So
right. So I think there's a check. I think there's there's 2 though. I think there's the check-in, there's a debriefing, and then a check-in. Okay. I think
like that's where this right now is a debriefing.
Correct. Where it's a little bit more detail, a little bit whatever. A check-in is more of like under 5 minutes type of deal.
Gotcha.
You're just having a brief conversation. Hey, where can I help? What do you need from me? That type of thing. But 28 days, Gabe, overall impression of the challenge.
So this is an excellent like beginning, like just to get started, just like kind of get yourself in the in the mode of just doing any parts of these if you weren't doing them already. Because like you said, like that's what I started like with, especially the water, like years ago when somebody said it was like, now like every morning is just automatic. So like
Yeah.
that became a habit. It was like, but going back to this is like now looking forward to actually like, even like I said, like you have here like 20 minutes of just doing something like activity wise is like you look forward to it now as opposed to before it was like, oh, you kind of dread, like I know I need to do this and you just keep pushing it off and off and it becomes more of a negative thing, like we've always said. Like it's just
Right.
it's actually a positive thing now. And like even like some of the stuff I still have to work on, like, you know, being more on top of like the reading and stuff too. Is like I know I still have to work on that. Like it's more just, but maybe pick the right. But I guess picking the right books helps with that, all that stuff too. Is like, you know, especially if we're like you said, if we're doing like a group like book club type thing, then it's like you have a different incentive to like kind of keep up with stuff like that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
But everything else is like, it seems like it's been an excellent start to at least like keep a lot of stuff going. You know, just to kind of like we can build upon this stuff to now, because like but even like what I think Hex said a couple weeks ago was like, oh, I forgot about the satellite radio. It's like, oh, so instead of like just listening to random podcasts stuff too, it was like there are the motivational like kind of like talks and stuff on there that I can just pop on while I'm driving home from work. So it like adds an extra something else. I'm intaking something better than I probably
Yeah.
wasn't before, if that makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
so it's kind of like changing a little bit mindset type stuff along the way. So it's like it definitely puts you in a different mind frame when you're trying to actively, I guess, do better. Like, you know, we always talk about the whole point of this podcast was to, you know, be a better version of yourself. So I was like, this is definitely like a, you know, a stepping stone to kind of like build upon all the stuff we always been talking about for the past several years. So
I love it. Excellent. Goose, what about you, man? What was your 28 days experience like, and overall results and feedback?
Um, Dude, just like you said earlier, it's this past week was kind of like with like the holiday weekend or whatever, short week with work and a couple days and gaps in between here. So of course it was like I know I failed on a bunch of things, but for the most part, like I just stayed in tune, did my morning routines, and like I've been saying, what I've been struggling was with the reading thing, but like just still trying. Now I know like going through this whole list where my weaknesses are, and that's like one of them.
Great point.
And now it's like what Gabe said. Now, before it was like, oh, you're trying to do all these little check marks. So let me drink water, let me stretch. Now it's almost like a natural routine. Now it's like, even though that already was before, but now it's like I wake up and there's already there. Like there's a bottle of water next to the bed anyway. When I wake up in the mornings, I like room temperature water. So it's like just go with the flow. But like I said, now it's like there's other things I know I have to work on. So like the next challenge, I'm going to focus more on those things.
Yeah.
But
No,
like you said, like overall, like the past 28 days or whatever it was, you think you have everything like figured out, and you think you know yourself and like your position in certain things, and when you have to check it off, you're like, dang, I really don't do this, or I really don't do this every day, you know. So it's like, yeah, definitely like that helped me out, and now I get to like apply more time or more thought or work harder on those things.
yeah, no, absolutely. Um, that's an interesting thing you said, because it points out the way you said it, right? It's a very basic thing, but it's true. It points out your weaknesses too, right? Highlights it. Like, yeah, dude, you're not as good as you thought you were doing in this area or whatever it is. So it is funny in that way. But that's the truth, right? There it is. It's just staring right at you. This unchecked boxes. It's just like, yeah, I definitely didn't do that. But again, overall, I think the suggestions that we made, I think this is definitely something I'm going to possibly like revamp on my own, and then, you know, obviously share with you all, well, the crew anyway, and to kind of just see like where we are. And then, because I do think like after doing it that many times, or after doing it for the month,
yeah,
I'd like to actually develop something a little bit further. to kind of do away with these excuses to then see what our results are again. Like add the things that we're saying, process wise, and kind of figure out what works best, and possibly incorporate forms of technology, like a lot of this having it on your phone or just easily accessible. Like I said, the thing book kind of throws people off. If you're not if you're not an avid reader, right? That those are the things that'll just turn you off or just throw you off, or just, again, this is just a start somebody in the right direction. People are progress and grow in their own way, and at their own pace. But yeah, so I think honestly this was just a very quick 4-week challenge. And again, I think something's going to come out of it. I have a lot of ideas, and actually the ideas had been sprung up before we actually took on the challenge. That's how it came about, and I still have this little sheet of paper right in front of me. And so hopefully you guys will see more of this. But I think it's cool. I think having challenges, and it doesn't even have to be anything like this, like the lifestyle thing for us to be held. It could be anything, just challenging each other on other things. I kind of like the accountability aspect of it, because even like Thursday or Friday, like, oh man, I got to give my results on Monday, and I kept thinking it, and like even that alone was forcing me to do some of this stuff. Because it's like you're being held accountable, and it's like, I'm not going to be embarrassed, so I'm going to do it.
Sure.
So, I mean, that I think that's part of it. I think that's part of the trick, right? To developing those better habits. But if anything, I think hopefully what we're doing here is inspiring, the listeners to maybe start up with your own group, come up with your own challenge, develop and do it with your significant other, with a couple of buddies at work, or your siblings. Just do it with your family, whatever, something free. Do it with your kids, and just hold each other. You know how dope it is that if your whole family is doing a challenge together, and people are asking, and then you guys are sitting together. What if you're reading together? What if you're reading the Bible together? What if you're doing things like that? And how deeper and just more, I don't even know, I don't know, just taking your relationships to a whole other level,
like enhance the bond.
Yes, yeah, no, absolutely, because then we'll forever share this for the rest of our lives. Remember when we did the challenge? That's it, and that's the cool. That's why I love doing it, and then that's why I love doing it. I think it also matters to do it with people you care about, because I think you're more susceptible to holding yourself true. So when you're doing it with a bunch of strangers, there's this thing where it's like, oh, I don't really care, because they don't even know me, blah, blah, blah. That could be good or bad. I'm just saying there's benefits on both ends. So, and again, you have to figure out what works best for you. Know thyself, right? And this whole thing is for us to improve. This whole thing isn't about, catching a tongue lashing at the end of every week and getting beat over the head with poor results. So that's not what any of this is about. That if that works for you, awesome. But that has nothing to do with what this was. This was for me and my brothers to come together and do something together where we are improving ourselves and becoming, putting more value on ourselves and our relationship. I don't know many friends or brothers that do things like this together. Like how basic this sounds.
Sure.
Many people did this with their brothers. I'm not so sure there's a lot. I think conceptually, like, oh, that's easy. I'm sure brothers would do that. I don't think so. I think what it is. It's one of those things where it's so simple that you kind of discard it. That was just like the list. We're like, I'm not checking anything off the list because I know that it's on my mind. Okay, but check it off the list. It's so simple. And then you'll realize you're not doing a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. Because it's probably the one thing you keep missing is like, I know I'm doing it, but I'm actually not doing it.
No, yeah, your mind is playing tricks on you. So, anyway, do we have any final words or any like words of advice for someone who's going to take on the challenge? Gabe, we'll start with you.
So this is, like I said earlier, this is an excellent first step, because it's like it's none of it's hard, none of it's like extenuating, whatever is like, yeah. And kind of like what you said, like even if it's just like me and Mikey both might have issues with the reading and stuff too, but it's like you kind of suggested along the way, you're like, you don't have to do the 10 minutes of reading, like do a couple pages here and there, whatever gets you in the mood. It's like you can even break this up even farther if you need help in those aspects. So it's like these excellent, even just like first step of just getting started to do anything, like I said, it's filling in the gaps of stuff we probably all should be doing anyway, to some degree of like all that stuff. So it was like, I think this was an excellent like beginning like challenge thing that anybody can take on, whether it be a small group or, you know, even solo by yourself. So
I love it. Goose?
Yeah, honestly, dude, it makes you like, you just gotta be true to yourself with this whole list. I could sit here and like BS everyone, be like, yo, I aced this, you know? Like, what good is that gonna do with like if I sit here and tell you guys, yeah, I read every day, I do this, do that, this is easy, blah blah. Like, dude, you just gotta check yourself, like be true to yourself. Like, yo, now I'm really doing this, and like I said earlier, like there's certain things that I really lack of that I should be doing. You know what I mean? Whether I like it or not, it's still like healthy, no matter what it is. You know what I mean? If it's a physical thing or a mental thing, it's still like it's all healthy, and it's gonna like make you a better person. You know what I mean? On top of, like I said, being true to yourself with the list, make sure you're really doing everything full and thoroughly. So I mean, that's one of the big things that I kind of took into it too, you know?
Yep.
Just completing the task for the most part.
Yeah. Yep.
All right. So like I said, once again, if you're listening to this, you have any suggestions for us, maybe some items you're probably like, you know, thinking of that you're dying to tell us, just reach out, shoot us an email, instant message us, whatever. Share those suggestions, and we'll take them all into consideration and apply them where appropriate. We hope this helped, maybe inspired someone out there listening. Like I said, I'm going to fine tune some of this and then possibly share, so you know, the end product with everyone, and again, we'll take it from there. All right, so the next couple weeks, we're going to get our guests back on. Thank you guys for hanging in there with us. This was just a project that we wanted to do, something different. I think it's awesome because we went into the holiday season sort of like pretty strong, actually. Now we're in December, we're coming up on December, and you know, we got a month away, and then it's the brand new year. So it's a great way to end the year strong. Hopefully we can continue with these positive, healthy habits. And again, I'm going to fine tune what I have, all the feedback that I receive, and I'm coming back with something. I think a product that's it's going to be very useful, and it's going to help thousands of people. I can guarantee you that. All right, so we like to wrap things up with quotes, and the first one is by Wayne Dyer. If you believe it'll work out, you'll see opportunities. If you don't believe it'll work out, you'll see obstacles. The second one by Paulo Coelho. The world is changed by your example, not your opinion, right? And so lead by example. And through these challenges, literally lead by example. Show people. Telling people is one thing. Like Goose said, you can BS your results all you want.
Yeah.
Showing people you're actually doing it is a totally different thing. Tracking it. Be proud of it. Be proud of yourself. Be proud that you're working on yourself, right? Be proud that you're becoming literally a better version of yourself. How fantastic. And then even better to do it with your brother. So let us know. Share your results with us and your suggestions. With that said, we'll close it out. The challenge part 5 in this episode series, your crew is taking on a challenge of their own and sharing the journey. We cover topics that range from final adjustments, recommendations, overall results, and much more. We wrap the episode up with quotes from Paulo Coelho and Wayne Dyer.
Awesome. Guys, thanks again for joining us. The Rotated Views podcast was produced for self-development purposes. Huge shout out to our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by the Blessed Lifestyle brand. That is BL3SSED.com. Also sponsored by The Motivation Files Unleashed. This motivational mixtape will be your fuel for success. Available on all platforms. Guys, don't forget to visit the website, JimmyleeVelez.com. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Rotated Views. If you have any inquiries or questions, email us at info@jimmyleevelez.com. On behalf of myself and the rest of the crew, we wish you massive success. Stay blessed.